Chicago Bears fans, I have been sitting here thinking about our roster construction, and honestly, the sheer volume of changes in the safety room has my head spinning. Something just developed regarding a potential veteran addition that could truly shake up our defensive depth chart. What makes this interesting is how a specific name is suddenly being linked to our secondary, even though our position group looks fairly set for training camp. The more details emerge, the harder it is to ignore the implications for our defense. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your name and city below. Let's get into it. The Chicago Bears have completely overhauled their safeties room this offseason, choosing to part ways with veterans Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker in favor of a new direction led by free agent signing Kobe Bryant and rookie Dylan Thieneman. We have spent years watching the safety position evolve under this regime, and seeing both Byard and Brisker exit free agency marks a total shift for our secondary as we head into the Ben Johnson era. The news broke recently as the front office solidified the roster, also bringing back depth pieces like Jervarius Owens and Elijah Hicks, while adding Cam Lewis and Skylar Thomas to the mix. As Chicago Bears fans, this hits us hard, because Brisker was a homegrown talent we watched grow from a high draft pick into a physical tone setter, making his departure feel like the end of an identity chapter. Now, CBS sports analyst Brian DiArdo has fueled speculation by linking us to former Cowboys safety Donovan Wilson, a veteran playmaker known for his blitzing prowess and run defense numbers. The truth is, while Wilson brings an impressive career stat line of 13 sacks and 8 interceptions, he also carries significant baggage regarding his coverage liabilities and tackling struggles that have plagued him recently. The bottom line here is that despite the buzz, we likely have our 4 spots already locked in with Bryant, Thieneman, Hicks, and Lewis as we enter training camp. Unless there is a sudden injury crisis, it seems highly improbable that General Manager Ryan Poles will pivot to sign Wilson for a roster spot that is essentially closed. We have to trust the vision of this coaching staff as we prepare for the upcoming season with this revamped secondary unit, so keep your eyes locked on how these new guys perform once the pads finally start popping this summer. Bear down. The overhaul of our secondary stems from a calculated shift in defensive philosophy under head coach Ben Johnson, as the front office chose to move on from Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, rather than navigating expensive veteran extensions. By opting for the mobility of Kobe Bryant and the upside of rookie Dylan Thieneman, the brass is clearly prioritizing cost-controlled youth over aging production. While Brian DiArdo floated the idea of bringing in Donovan Wilson, we need to look at his actual trajectory before getting excited. Wilson brings a resume featuring 13 career sacks and 9 forced fumbles, but his decline is statistically alarming. With a 38.6 tackle grade and a 38.6 coverage grade last season, he is essentially a liability in the modern passing game. Historically, this team has struggled when plugging in veterans who lack elite coverage skills, often resulting in massive chunks of yardage surrendered in the middle of the field. Behind closed doors, Ryan Poles is likely viewing the roster as essentially locked. The front office isn't interested in a reclamation project that compromises the salary cap when they already have 4 safeties competing for their respective spots. Think about it this way. The team values the development of Elijah Hicks and the versatility of Cam Lewis, who provide reliable depth without the baggage of Wilson's declining metrics. The bottom line here is that the coaching staff prefers a scheme that emphasizes agility and coverage range, 2 areas where Wilson has objectively struggled over the last 5 campaigns. Unless a catastrophic injury occurs during camp, we should expect the current room to remain untouched as we head into the season. The organization is betting on potential over the name value of a veteran who simply doesn't fit the current vision of our defensive identity. Bear down. The reality of this situation hits home because the secondary is the engine that drives Ben Johnson's defensive scheme, and we are currently betting the house on a complete overhaul of the safety position. This matters right now because replacing veterans like Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker with Kobe Bryant and Dylan Thieneman is a high-stakes gamble that requires immediate chemistry if we want to stay competitive. While adding a veteran like Donovan Wilson sounds nice on paper, the salary cap constraints and the confidence in our current depth mean the roster is likely set with Bryant, Thieneman, Elijah Hicks, and Cam Lewis locked into those 4 spots. If we look at the upcoming schedule, having a settled and reliable safety rotation is non-negotiable when we face high-powered passing attacks from division rivals like the Detroit Lions under Dan Campbell and the Minnesota Vikings with Kevin O'Connell. Any vulnerability in the deep middle of the field could be the difference between a division title and watching the postseason from home. Our standing against these NFC North foes depends entirely on how quickly our new starters can minimize big plays and support the run game, especially against teams that prioritize quick strikes and aggressive vertical passing. And I will be straight with you, the lack of depth behind our new starters is the biggest lingering concern for the front office as we head into the thick of training camp. If an injury strikes early, that decision to pass on a veteran like Wilson might look like a missed opportunity to provide insurance for a secondary that is still finding its identity. Ultimately, our playoff aspirations hinge on this unit performing at a high level immediately to ensure that our defense remains a nightmare for every quarterback on our schedule this year. Bear down. Adding Donovan Wilson to the roster could provide a massive boost to our secondary because his versatility as a box safety is rare. He is a legitimate playmaker who thrives near the line of scrimmage, bringing elite blitzing instincts and run-stopping capability that could help Ben Johnson stifle aggressive offenses. The upside is clear, as Wilson offers a physical tone that can intimidate opponents and generate game-changing turnovers that we desperately need. However, the downside is just as glaring because his coverage skills have plummeted recently, making him a liability against vertical passing attacks. When you combine his poor tackle grades with his inconsistent coverage, you realize why he remains on the market. League analysts are split, with some media outlets praising his veteran pedigree, while others argue that the Chicago defense has moved past the need for high-risk, low-reward specialists. Teams around the league are likely cautious given his sharp decline in PFF metrics, even though his history of forced fumbles is tempting. Here's where I land on this. While the prospect of adding a former Cowboy feels flashy, it is ultimately unnecessary for a team that has already committed to a younger, more balanced identity at safety. We have Kobe Bryant and Dylan Thieneman leading the room, plus solid depth with Elijah Hicks and Cam Lewis waiting in the wings. Bringing in an aging, struggling veteran would only clog the roster and potentially hinder the growth of our current draft picks. The bottom line is that Ryan Poles has built this secondary with specific traits in mind, and Wilson does not align with the modern, fluid coverage requirements of our defense. We should focus on letting our current guys prove their worth under this new coaching staff instead of chasing names that no longer provide the impact we actually require. Bear down. The bottom line here is that the complete overhaul of our safety room signals a massive shift in philosophy under head coach Ben Johnson as the front office prioritizes youth and athleticism to build a sustainable defensive identity for the next few seasons. While names like Donovan Wilson provide veteran experience, the decision to rely on Kobe Bryant and Dylan Thieneman proves this team is committed to developing homegrown talent rather than chasing aging free agents who struggle with coverage consistency. As Chicago Bears fans, we should feel genuinely optimistic heading into the season because this new look indicates that Ryan Poles finally has a clear vision for how the secondary should function in our modern defensive scheme. We are moving away from stopgap measures and toward building a long-term core that can grow together, which is exactly the direction we need to be heading to compete at the highest level. Even though the depth charts might look unconventional compared to past years, the sheer speed and potential across the board offer a high ceiling that simply was not there previously. It is refreshing to see a regime trust the scouting process and the roster construction plan instead of panicking to sign available veterans. We should embrace this transition period because it shows the maturity of a front office that understands the value of chemistry and scheme fit over raw name recognition. Looking ahead, do you believe that Dylan Thieneman is ready to take the starting job by week 1, or do you think the coaching staff will favor the veteran experience of Elijah Hicks for the opener? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Bear down. I'll see you in the next one.